So Paramount has come in with a hostile bid worth more than $108 billion for Warner Brothers Discovery. And this plans that announcement of Netflix's planned purchase of Warner Brothers last week. In fact, Netflix would just buy the streaming and movie studio business and spin off the network business. What does this mean for Canada's entertainment landscape? We're joined by Doug Barrett, adjunct professor of arts, media and entertainment at the Schulich School of Business, a longtime player in Canadian media, also a former chair of the Canadian Television Fund, which is the main federal instrument for supporting the TV industry. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, Doug.
Hi, Andrew.
I guess one thing that leaps to mind here is what happened. Warner owns Crave, and what happens to Crave if, Warner owns HBO, and then our parent, Bell, through Bell Media, owns Crave, and that has the HBO franchise in Canada. So the question would be, what does this mean for HBO in Canada if Netflix gets to buy Warner?
Well, it could mean a lot. Bell's issued an announcement saying Crave is still part of the Bell family, and HBO is part of the Crave package. Bell has had a very good relationship with Warner Brothers Discovery for quite a long time, and the Canadians are used to seeing HBO and HBO Max as part of the Crave package. And I gather in 2024, we don't know the details, but Bell signed a multi-year agreement or Crave signed a multi-year agreement with Warner Brothers Discovery to continue with the HBO programming and so on to the Canadian audiences. I guess the question is, what will happen if when that deal expires? What will happen to HBO as part of Crave? Now, David Zaslav, who's the head of Warner Brothers Discovery, had an all-staff meeting last week, and he said HBO is going to continue as a standalone service. It's not going to be folded into Netflix. Mm-hmm. Now, that's the outgoing head of Warner Brothers Discovery talking about what the plans are, but who knows what the actual plans will be when the deal is consummated, if Netflix gets it, notwithstanding this new bid. And I think it's anybody's guess as to what will happen, but certainly if at some point in the future Netflix was to want to absorb the HBO programming libraries into its main service, it would be a pretty serious blow for Crave. But I don't think there's anything likely to happen immediately, certainly for the next few years.
I'm checking with my colleagues at Bell Media, but apparently Crave has reportedly about 4.3 million subscribers, and Netflix has something like 9 million Canadian subscriptions. So we're talking about a lot of people here. It is interesting. What do you think of this argument that Netflix is apparently coming up with? Oh, well, we compete with YouTube, but I think some people are mocking that, saying, well, it's mostly just brain rot on YouTube. We're not talking about high quality productions.
Well, YouTube is a fundamentally different service. It is an incredibly successful service globally, but it is a different type of entertainment experience for sure. And it is not at any point yet successfully gotten into premium entertainment of anything like the nature of what Netflix offers or HBO offers. So, but the Netflix deal is, now that it's being threatened by a bid from Paramount, Skydance. Have I got the name right?
Yes. Paramount Skydance.
Paramount
they keep
Skydance.
Changing. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Both bidders have a major streamer. So the only thing is that in the Netflix bid, some of the cable channels are being spun off, CNN and so on. And in the Paramount Skydance bid, it's a bid for the whole bundle of channels. Right. There's to be no spin-off.
I mean, of course, oligopsony is one of my favorite and oligopsony is just very few buyers in the market. And of course, if we did get HBO and Netflix under the same owner, it'd be tough for producers of content. There'd be fewer buyers, purchasers of their stuff. And that would apply, of course, to Canadian creatives as well.
Absolutely. Well, both possible transactions represent a dramatic consolidation. Scott Galloway, I'm sure you've heard of him. Mm-hmm. His little headline is "Netflix just bought Hollywood."
Huh.
It's a pretty dramatic statement, but the consolidation never seems to end. Each of the components of both of these packages of that the companies have, originally were powerhouses in their own right. CNN was its own powerhouse. Warner Brothers was a powerful studio. Discovery, a hugely successful specialty channel. So they keep bundling up and then reducing the number of buyers for potential content. For Canadians, Hollywood has always been a big hill to climb, and this just reducing the number of buyers is going to make it an even bigger hill to climb.
Yeah, Galloway, of course, marketing prof at New York University, among other things, but a well-known pundit and always an interesting commentator on affairs. We've very little time. The government backed down on the digital services tax. Could you generalize? Is Netflix putting back as much right now into Canada as it takes out in membership fees?
Well, it thinks it is, but what it's really doing is creating, having its own projects being shot in Canada. And if they have a small Canadian element, then Netflix says, well, that's a Canadian show. And if we ever are obligated to contribute to the system in some way, the kind of stuff we do with a few little Canadian elements should be treated as fully Canadian. There are a lot of folks, including myself, who dramatically disagree with that. The Canadian government's been working for 50 years to develop a system in Canada that supports Canadian programs and supports making the stories that Canadians want to see. And that's becoming progressively more under threat.
Doug, thank you very much. I hope you'll come back, as you have such depth on this subject, and we'd love to have you back if you're free as this story develops. Thank you very much.
It'd be my pleasure, and thank you, Andy, for inviting me.
Doug Barrett, adjunct professor of arts, media, and entertainment at Schulich School of Business.